We saw the rock star, the man who won Woodstock, but we never knew about the 7 times he attempted suicide. Now, at 77, Santana isn't just sharing his darkest moments, he's revealing the truth that shaped his life, his music, and his soul. Let's get into the full story. For decades, Carlos Santana kept the pain, betrayal, and the times he pleaded for the suffering to stop hidden. Carlos Santana's early years were filled with hardship and drama. He was born in Mexico in 1947, and his father taught him how to play guitar when he was very young. When Carlos was 8 years old, his family relocated to Tijuana, which had a significant impact on his life. There, Carlos saw a wonderful. He fell in love with blues and rock music when he saw the TJS play in a park, but his life in Tijuana wasn't going well for 2 years. An American man took Carlos across the border and bought him toys and clothes to keep him quiet, but it stopped when the man hit him for staring at a woman through a window. This terrible experience left Carlos feeling guilty for years. When he was only 15, he began playing guitar in Tijuana's strip clubs, which were a rough place for a child. He witnessed some pretty scary things there, such as a police officer being cruel to a woman who worked there, but playing in these clubs also helped Carlos develop his unique style. Carlos Santana, who worked as a dishwasher at the Tic-Toc drive-in in the early 1960s, made very little money but saved everything he could. He dreamed of purchasing immigration paperwork and a new Stratocaster guitar, but one day he discovered that his mother had taken all of his $300 in savings and used it to pay for his sister's dental work. When Carlos asked her about it, she gave him only $20 back, which made him feel so hurt that he left home with just that $20. He returned to Tijuana, where he performed in strip clubs to make ends meet. Carlos lived in a small, cramped apartment in the Mission District with other musicians. There was no bed, so he slept on the floor. It was difficult, but he persisted with his music before he became well known. He washed dishes and could hardly afford food, surviving largely on rice and beans. He didn't have enough money for guitar strings, so he played with broken ones or anything he could find. While playing, Carlos heard a variety of music, including jazz and folk, and he learned to incorporate these sounds into his own style, which helped him attract the attention of passers-by. The turning point came in 1966 when Santana formed his first band, the Santana Blues Band. He spent hours performing at venues like Fisherman's Wharf and Union Square, sometimes earning less than $5. At the drive-in, he met Tom Fraser, who introduced him to Greg Rowley, a keyboardist. They also brought in David Brown on bass and Marcus Malone on percussion. Michael Carabello offered the band's name, Santana, because it sounded catchy. Santana's ascent to popularity seemed to be fated. The band's big break at Woodstock was made possible by promoter Bill Graham, who had faith in them. Graham was assisting with the festival's planning when he advised the organizers that Santana had to be included if they wanted his assistance. At the time, Santana wasn't well known, they hadn't even released their debut album, and the majority of the 400,000 attendees at Woodstock didn't know who they were. The band was merely a San Francisco local act that had been performing in small bars and locations like Tijuana shortly before they were granted a 45-minute slot on August 16, 1969, in the afternoon, placed them between well-known acts like Creedence Clearwater Revival and the Grateful Dead, which made their presence even more unexpected. Carlos Santana's state of mind during the show, when he was just 22 years old, was what made Santana's performance at Woodstock even more incredible. He had an unexpected run-in with Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead after arriving at the festival by helicopter. Santana believed they wouldn't play until much later that night, perhaps around 3 a.m., but while he waited, Garcia gave him something to try, possibly peyote mescaline or another potent hallucinogen. When it came time to perform earlier than anticipated, Santana was already engaged in a vivid journey on stage when he noticed his guitar neck moving like a snake. To keep himself grounded, he played with his eyes closed, relying on his fingers to find the right notes. At one point, he even prayed to God, asking him to spare him from humiliation in front of the enormous audience. Bill Graham had warned Carlos that fame would strike hard after the festival, and he was right. Just 2 weeks after Woodstock, Santana's debut album was released on August 30, 1969. The timing was ideal, and they were suddenly not just a local band but a national sensation. Their performance at Woodstock changed everything for Santana. Graham helped the band take advantage of their success by securing them appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show in October 1969 and at important events like the Gold Rush Festival. These appearances cemented the band's rising stardom. Santana had great success with her debut record. The self-titled album remained on the Billboard 200 Pop Album chart for an astounding 108 weeks, peaking at number 4 in November 1969. Their first single, Jingo, only reached number 56, but their big breakthrough was the song, Evil Ways, which rose to number 9 and spent 13 weeks at the top of the charts. It's interesting to note that Bill made the decision to include Evil Ways on the album. Graham encouraged the band to cover Willie Bobo's version of the song. The album's success not only brought fame, but it also enabled Carlos Santana to fulfill a promise he had made to his mother. With his first royalty check, he bought her a house and made sure it had everything she needed, including a brand new refrigerator. This marked the beginning of a career that would make Santana a rock legend. Meanwhile, in 1973, when his music career was at its height, he married Deborah King, the daughter of blues musician Saunders King. Over the years, their relationship grew beyond a marriage, and Deborah played a significant role in overseeing Santana's career and money, particularly in the 1990s when Carlos acknowledged that without her assistance, he may have been left penniless. Together, they produced 3 children. They were married for 34 years and had a solid business partnership. In 1994, Salvador, who became a songwriter and band leader, took full control of the Santana Band, with Deborah serving as vice president and COO of Santana Management until 2007. In 1998, they established the MRO Foundation, which provided aid to impoverished children across the globe. A major contributor to Carlos's enormous success with the 1999 album Supernatural was Deborah. Their marriage wasn't as perfect as it seemed, though, as Deborah revealed in her 2005 memoir Space Between the Stars that Carlos had cheated on her. This revelation, along with other problems, led to their divorce in 2007. Following the publication of the memoir, Carlos publicly acknowledged his infidelity, saying he felt deeply sorry and apologized to Deborah and their children for the hurt he caused. He told them that he wasn't in the right frame of mind at the time and promised to change into the kind of man she wanted him to be. A larger crisis in Carlos's spiritual life was linked to his difficulties during this time. He had previously followed a spiritual guru named Sri Chinmoy but had abandoned his tutelage in. Due to conflicts over personal decisions, Carlos' divorce in 1982 caused him to reach his lowest point in life, which resulted in 7 suicide attempts. He felt so hopeless that he thought death might be preferable to his suffering, but something stopped him each time. He recounted hearing a quiet but strong voice say, "I'm sitting next to you, isn't that enough?" These moments, along with seeing a picture of Jesus and lighting a candle, helped him pull back from the edge, and eventually he discovered joy in everyday activities like eating and breathing. The pain of the divorce also brought back memories of a traumatic event from his early years. After being sexually assaulted by a father friend when he was 10 years old, Carlos's spiritual journey has been filled with ups and downs. In 1973, his guru gave him the name Deep, which means, the lamplight and eye of God. After leaving the guru's guidance, Carlos later converted to Christianity, which brought him peace. By 2015, he was so devoted to his faith that he spoke about becoming a church minister after retiring from music. In 1999, he even planned to open a church in Maui, Hawaii. At the age of 52, Carlos Santana made a spectacular return with the publication of his album Supernatural, which went on to become one of the greatest hits in music history. Santana hadn't had a top 10 hit since 1971, so it was a big risk, but it worked out in a way no one anticipated at the Grammy Awards in 2000. Santana won 9 Grammys in one night, tying Michael Jackson for the most Grammys ever won. The album sold 30 million copies worldwide. This happened because Clive Davis, the man who had signed Santana to Columbia Records back in 1969, approached him with the idea to collaborate again. The album peaked at number 1 in 11 countries and topped the US charts for 12 weeks. In addition, Santana became the first Hispanic performer to win the Grammy for Album of the Year. Smooth, one of Supernatural's most well-known songs, nearly failed. The song began as a basic concept known as Room 17, which was about Santana and a groupie meeting at a hotel. An executive named Pete Ganner believed the album required a big success and lobbied for the song. At first, Santana wasn't interested, and Clive Davis had to personally message him to change his mind. Santana wanted the band and Rob Thomas to play the song live in the studio, which he claimed generated a tsunami of optimism. The song was a huge smash. Rob Thomas, who penned and sang it, was living a relaxed life in Manhattan when he got involved. The song, Smooth, topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 12 weeks, spent 30 weeks in the top 10, and was on the chart for 58 weeks overall, making it the final number 1 hit of the 1990s and the first of the 2000s. He arrived to San Francisco in the early 1960s and worked as a dishwasher, performing on the streets for tips. Today, his estimated net worth is $120 million. This shows how far hard effort can get you. After Supernatural made over $375 million in Sal's market, his success took off. Santana is a savvy businessman who founded a series of Mexican restaurants named Maria Maria with chef Roberto Santibanez. He has also invested in real estate, including a $6 million house in Las Vegas and a $20.5 million property in Hawaii. Despite being 77 years old, Santana hasn't slowed down. He still performs in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino's House of Blues, where he has a residency known as A Private Night Spent with Santana. SiriusXM's Greatest Hits Live has been continuing strong for 13 years and will continue to do so until 2025. He performs high-energy events many times a week, with new dates planned for early 2025. Along with the Rolling Stones, Santana is one of the few musicians to have an album in the top 10 in each decade since the 1960s. He also donates a portion of the proceeds from his performances to charities like the House of Blues Music Forward Foundation and the Emerald Foundation, demonstrating his commitment to giving back. In September 2024, Carlos Santana had to postpone a number of important shows due to urgent surgery for a back issue. Postponed his September and early October residency shows at the House of Blues in Las Vegas. Despite canceling some of his shows, the 77-year-old guitarist, who had been sitting during recent performances, was still able to play on August 27th, 28th, 30th, and 31st, including a very special show at the Kia Forum in Englewood. He also canceled his September 4th show in Albuquerque at the Amphitheater and his September 2nd show in Phoenix. Santana performed 5 songs from his well-known album Supernatural in honor of its 25th anniversary. These performances demonstrated that despite his health issues, Santana was still able to produce amazing music. However, in 2023, Santana became embroiled in a significant controversy due to remarks he made. Regarding gender identity, he spoke about gender being determined before birth in an unscripted 15-minute address during a concert in Atlantic City, New Jersey, which caused discomfort for many in the audience. The scene went viral after someone posted a video online. Following his statement that, "When God made you and me before we came out of the womb, you know who you are and what you are," Santana apologized on Facebook for his hurtful remarks. However, he later removed the apology and replaced it with an enigmatic poem that read, "The energy of consciousness generates its own kind." Given that it occurred during a time when hate breeds hate and love breeds love, this further fueled the dispute. During the same Atlantic City performance, Santana publicly supported comedian Dave Chappelle, referring to their close relationship, at a time when numerous anti-LGBTQ bills were being introduced in the U.S., some of which targeted transgender youth. This sparked more backlash because Chappelle had already been under fire for his controversial remarks about transgender people in his Netflix special The Closer. Santana backed Chappelle during a period when many